Welcome everybody, thank you for coming. We're really happy to welcome you to Step Up Gallery and to this show, Magic Paintbrush, Painting Peace and Healing with Feather Redfox. Feather with me here, she's going to talk a little bit about how she came to this whole beautiful evolution of painting peace and healing. So I'll let her take it from there.
Thank you, Katie. Well, just as a little background, gosh, I've been doing art since I was about that high. I think that's the case for many of us. Although I have to say, the last 5 years, this work is all pretty much from just 5 years, so it's been pretty hectic. And I love to paint every day when I can. Painting's my soul food, really is. And I think a lot of you may understand that as well. So I started out in Philadelphia in Maryland, the Maryland Institute College of Art. And I completed degrees at both of those, and I taught art for many years. And then New Mexico caught up with me. When I was a little girl, we used to drive from Pennsylvania to California. My dad loved to drive, and he loved to see the country and new things and historical places. So I was really pretty lucky. I got to do a lot of that when I was just a little girl. And I remember starting back east and driving out here and seeing that mountain, first just about this big. And then by the end of the day, it would be like this, and it was like magic. So I always thought, maybe I'll come out here and live someday. And by golly, I did. So I've been here about 30 years now. And like I was saying to these ladies up here, even though I've lived here 30 years, I'm still not native, but I'm getting closer. So the painting, my paintings really are almost landscapes of my inner mind and the things that are going on there. I don't paint from real life, that was part of my training. And I certainly appreciate the anatomy classes that I had because they helped me understand why something doesn't look right. So I've always painted from my inner knowing. But I've also done paintings from, still life setups and landscapes and all of that sort of thing. But that's not what I'm doing now. I never have any idea what these paintings are going to look like when I start. It's a simple process, really. I think of my work and all of the connections that I have with things as being an interactive energy, because that's what we are. We're energy. We're just moving so slowly that we get the impression that we're solid, but we're not. So most of my paintings that I do now are based on something that's a concern to me. And I'll say, okay, guides. And I do shamanic work too. I don't claim to be a medicine woman, I'm not. But I do shamanic work and work with energies. And I have guides, and sometimes they're animal guides, and sometimes they're human or look human guides. And I have these little voices in my head. I always thought everybody did, but maybe not, I'm not sure, but I literally have conversations with them. Okay, so where do you want this to start? How is the canvas supposed to go? Is it this way or that way? What color am I supposed to use? Okay, well, let's, all of us, just experiment and try this a little bit. I know we all have things going on in our daily life, and certainly there's a lot going on in the world. What's one thing just name it. 1 or 2 words. What's one thing that really is stuck in your mind? Maybe it's a concern about something, or maybe you're really happy because something good just happened. And I want you to use your markers, and I want you to just write it down on your paper. So, I'm going to do that too. And I'm going to put up here a pretty general word. Conflict. Is this working okay for you? Conflict. I don't have to go into the details of what the conflict's about, but I know for sure it causes physical responses in my body. And some things make me feel better about it, and some things make me feel worse. So, conflict, write it on your paper. Now, hello. How would you draw a picture of conflict? Well, you might draw a battle scene, you might draw 2 people going back and forth at one another. But what if you weren't going to make it look like a realistic picture of something? What if it was just one line? What would it look like? What if you made a scribble that represented conflict? Well, now what I want you to do is you think about your concern, whatever it was, and make a scribble, just one line that represents how that looks or feels to you. So, conflict, you just let your pen have free rein. And go ahead and take a minute and do that. So if I'm painting, I want to start a new painting, and it's going to be about conflict. It seems like a strange thing. When I paint, I look for several things. One thing I try to get is information. My paintings are like oracles. They have messages for me. Sometimes you see them, sometimes you see something different. But they are oracles for me, and I'll literally hear whatever my inner knowing, my guides have to say. And it doesn't come all out in the big story, it's bits and pieces. Bits and pieces. And so it's like, well, what does that mean? And then I might write something more on my canvas before I ever start to paint. Sometimes it's a prayer, sometimes it's a poem, sometimes it's just anguish. And I'll write that on here, and then I start thinking about, well, okay, conflict. I don't like the way that makes me feel. How can I change that? There's a technique that's called metacognizant drawing. You can find out more about it if you go to, let's see, I'll have to look it up. There's a link. It's the Heart Math Institute. And they have done a lot of research on our body and its energies and this whole process that I'm talking about. So drawing something that's not necessarily a picture, but making a physical image like we did here, that's part of this process. So, what could I do to change that? What would you do?
Soften the lines
Soften
somehow.
the lines, sure. So, everybody in here is working with something different. What color would work to soften lines? Red, orange, neon, blue, green,
Pastel.
pastel? Okay, and that might be different for each of us, because we react and we see color differently. We don't all see it exactly the same. So go ahead and look at your concern. How could you change that or make that something that's less annoying, bothersome, scary? Or if you wrote something down that was really joyful, how could you express that? What kinds of lines might make you feel like joy, or what colors? So, what shape do you think? And the fun part about it is, you get to play. And I get to have even more fun. Because if you have a bottle of water, look what you can do. These are water-based markers, so they will do that. If you had the permanent ones, they won't. But acrylic paints will. So, I'm going to do that. And then I can also just change the direction. And you'll see this on a number of my paintings, most of them actually. Where they have some sort of a background of drips that I've manipulated. It's easy, it's simple, and it can change the energy of the painting. Now, I don't want to get this on the floor. That would not be good. And then you can keep going with this. Another layer and another layer and another layer. So take a little time. If any of you want to try the spray bottle, you can, as long as we don't get, it's just water in there. So this is one of the ways, and this is the metacognitive drawing or working, by using colors, shapes, line character to express whatever it is your focus is. Okay, well that doesn't look like much. So we need to do more to it. So you might add more shapes. And I begin to see shapes like, okay, here's another shape. You know what? This almost looks like a creature here. And maybe these are, who knows, antlers. So this is part of what happens with the work that I'm doing. As I build up more and more shapes, I begin to see images. And then I say to myself, well, does that have something to do with my theme, my concern? How does that fit in there? Or maybe it doesn't. as somebody else looks at what I'm drawing, my husband will say, oh, I see such and such there and such there, and I'm looking and I'm saying, huh, well, I didn't see that, but that's okay, because we have to, I won't say we have to, it's different for every artist, but as an artist, I'm open to having other people see different things in my paintings. If you see what I saw, that's great. I have name tags, which the ladies labored over, because it was a lot of name tags. And the name tags give you a little hint about what was on my mind as I was doing the paintings. So you may see something totally different in them. But the process is building up layers. Maybe I'm working from different directions as I did when I was changing drifts on here. That could also represent the medicine wheel. The medicine wheel is a traditional process, symbol also, that, come on in, that people, Native people use in their work. And medicine wheel has the 4 cardinal directions, and then some people have an above and below also. And when you do a problem or something like this, if you start in this direction, the south direction, that represents the physical world. So what does your concern, how does it relate to the physical world? Does it change your life? Is it comfortable, uncomfortable? And if you go to the west represents emotions, the younger child, maybe the teenage child. How is that helpful in viewing your concern? Does it change the way you see it if you try to view it as a teenager? Maybe, maybe not. The north, the spiritual part of what you're dealing with. What might be a spiritual aspect to this thing that you're thinking about? And that's the adult. The east represents male, ration, and humor also. And in the west, we also have the female. So that's one more way that I sometimes think about what I'm doing. What are the colors that those things might bring to my paintings? Mostly it's intuition and what I hear from my guides. There's one painting back here. It looks a little bit different than the others. It has this strange creature with sort of a skull for a face and then hands up. There's a big rose down in one corner and another big thing in the other corner. I was almost done with that painting, but I had this empty space down there in that corner. And I'm saying, I have no clue what is supposed to be in here. So I'm asking my guides, and I'm asking, and sometimes they don't answer right away. Sometimes I have to sit with a painting a week, a little more. I go and I sit and I look, and I just try to clear my mind and wait to see what I'm told, given, remember, think. So this time, the painting in my mind had become about a previous life that I had had in Ireland, where I was involved with medicine work. And the guide said, well, that corner down there, you put lion's mane mushroom in there. And I'm saying, what? I don't even know what lion's mane mushroom looks like. So I had to look it up, excuse me. And they said, a moss teacup. You're to make tea from the lion's mane mushroom and drink it out of a moss teacup. And I don't know how familiar you are, but there's an artist, Oppenheimer was her name, who made a teacup out of,
I think it was fur. Yeah, and so I had sort of that image in my mind, but I think, okay. So I painted a moss teacup, and I painted the lion's mane. And then I realized, as I looked up the mushroom, lion's mane mushroom is to help memory. And as a now older person, my memory could sometimes use some help. So I do drink tea, and I do take lion's mane mushroom. You never know. I just had no clue, and that's the way it is for all of the paintings. It's just open, hear them, and be patient enough, and sometimes that's hard, to wait until you know it's supposed to be lion's mane mushroom or whatever. All right, now I want you to make a shape on your paper and maybe fill it in that will change the energy of what you have first drawn. Look at that energy. What does it feel like? What emotion does it bring up in you? You can write the emotion on the paper. This is a great way, by the way, of dealing with the stuff that's making you crazy every day. Just try doing this like a journal entry. Write what you're thinking about, draw lines to give a physical image to that. And then what can you do to change it? You can paint right over top of it. I do this all the time. I'll have a whole page of lament, complaint, and then I'll draw something over top of it. A rose, or maybe just shapes that I fill in and color in. And it's amazing how that can change the energy on that page. And it changes the energy in you. Instead of having all the negative cortisol flowing down, making your back and your joints hurt, making you, if you have a headache and feeling awful. If you can change the energy of that whole negative thing by creating colors over top of it, who knows, you might write another poem over top of it. Sometimes I write until the page is so full you cannot see the individual words, then you can actually make shapes with the words just by filling them in completely. It's very powerful. So this is part of a process that's called the Magnicod. And now I need my lion's mane. The metacognitive process. What happens with that is, it's a way of helping our brains see things in new ways. Our brain has all these programmed responses, and if we don't use them for a long time, eventually the brain recycles them and uses it over, uses that neuron over. But if we're able to create a physical image that represents a different response to this thing in our head, whatever we're thinking about, that will trigger our brains to create a new neural pathway, or to use a neural pathway to remember this new response. So it's actually a way of changing the way we respond to things. We recognize what we're thinking about, how we feel about it, and then create some kind of physical image of it. It might be writing, maybe you do a dance and take a video of it. It can be any of those things. So that's just one of the processes I use. Do you folks have any questions? I'm not sure how clear any of that was, but I'm happy to try to answer them. Or if there are any pieces out here that you'd like to know more about, that some of them have stories behind them, I'll be happy to tell you.
Yeah, well, being that I am going to have surely there must be lights somewhere. I would love to know maybe a little bit of that process or what led you, cause to me, it looked like, the monks were on the bottom and they're like walking for peace now and you're seeing them, or at least I'm seeing them. And then I thought, well, that's kind of recent, but I didn't, so then I thought, well, did you actually paint this like recently or, oh, you did?
I just painted it.
You
I just
did?
finished it 2 days ago.
Really?
I don't wanna be political, but let's just say that I'm overwhelmed by some of the things that are going on. And that surely there must be light somewhere.
So were you, I don't know if the word is inspired by the monks? Or,
I think, I've been watching them for a good while. And at first it was like, okay, these guys are doing it, that's great. And then as I became more and more involved in it and saw it, some of it every day with a little dog, Aloka, I got to the point where I can't watch it without crying. I feel that energy. I've been able to connect to it on a pretty deep level. And when I see some of the other things that are happening, I feel really discouraged, and it's like, surely there must be light somewhere. And then my answer to that was, well, I think the monks are light. They represent that for me at least. I'm sure they don't for everyone, but for me, I have really felt that energy. And I'll have that kind of connection with almost all of these paintings. Every one of them has a story.
I am so honored because no one else can have that painting. It's sold.
Which one is it? Where is it at?
It's right there at the end of this home on the
Oh,
left.
okay, on the
Yeah,
left. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But like, so not just because I fell in love with it, and then it was like at the end, I'm like, oh, those look like the monks. And then also, well, knowing you and then kind of feeling how that came together, it's very moving for me. So I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeing it.
Yeah, oh, I loved it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm gonna offer your services. Anybody who'd like to go through the gallery with Feather and have her talk about how things evolve with various pieces, you're welcome to do that. She's very open to explaining how she got to the point where it appears as a finished canvas. So, thank you.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Well, thank you all for coming, and thank you for your attention. We have a lot of food over here to help.